with the Tales Beyond Wales.
That's a tough act to follow.
Yes, it is.
You can do it. If Jason makes a CD, I'm going to buy it. Brilliant. I loved it.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I went to Norway with a friend.
One day, I came home from school and told my mother I'd been given a part in the school play. Wonderful, said Ma'am. What part is it? I said, I play the part of the Welsh husband. My mother scowled and said, you go back there and tell them you want a speaking part. The Me Too movement did not apply to Wales. But the Welsh came in contact with the Americans. It kind of changed everything. Di was at his car boot sale when an American tourist came by, pointing to a skull on display in Di's car. He says, whose skull is that? That, says Di, profoundly, is the skull of Owen Glendower. It's yours for £10. Owen Glendower was the last Welsh Prince of Wales. Incredible, says the American, I'll take it. Some weeks later, Di is at the car boot sale when the same American walks past and notices a much smaller skull for sale. Whose skull is that? Asked the American. That, says Di, in a practiced voice, is the skull of Owen Glendower. Hang on, says the American. You sold me the skull of Owen Glendower a few weeks ago. Aye, says Di. But this one is from when he was a boy. As an immigrant, you have 1 foot there and 1 foot here, and always have a longing to return. But sometimes you'll visit a place called Florida. Magdalene and I stayed in Florida during January and February. This was our first experience of being snowbirds. It was a cultural shock. So I wrote 2 letters to my sister in Wales, really. And I have to say that I would be offended by these letters, perhaps, but not today. So, dear Sylvia, this is the first letter. It was 80 degrees today and will reach 81 tomorrow. We are in an artificial place in the middle of Florida called The Villages, about an hour by road from Orlando. This place is made up of gated communities or neighborhoods, each called a village, which are interconnected via several major roads. Each village has its own distinct name, such as Del Sol, Winifred, Laurel, etc., and recreation center where people play all sorts of outdoor and indoor games, and where there is a swimming pool. Also there are 3 main central areas like small towns with lakes and a town square, live music and line dancing every night. We spend a lot of time driving from one class or lecture to another and participate in other more active events. Yesterday we played lawn bowls. Today we'll have tea with the British Club, which is bound to be boring. I'll probably try to liven it up with some well-chosen remarks about Brexit and the Queen's hat. The whole place is pristine and immaculately landscaped. Some roads are lined by oak trees with the hanging Spanish moss, palm trees and other stuff. It is a place where pelicans, herons, storks and ducks, but no alligators, wander around ponds and lakes, and half the people drive on the road in golf carts, guys with bulging t-shirts and crimson bloated faces. You should only visit Orlando if you have children. You should only visit the village if you are planning to die. A long death, that is. Here one is encouraged to become involved in endless games of pickleball, paddle tennis, bocce, shuffleboard, Mexican train, and attend classes or presentations such as philosophy, global warming, Kavanaugh, yes to nuclear energy, the lecturer used Wikipedia, I think, yes to carbon dioxide, that guy had to be a Republican, poetry, yoga, Zumba and art. There are investment and computer clubs, creative writing and dismal poetry groups. Last night we played Scrabble in a place that reminded me of a church social hall in a community centre. I won both games. Magdalene complained because I wouldn't let her have a wrongly spelled word. It was supposed to be a friendly game, she said. I thought, bullshit. When was Scrabble friendly? This is a sterile kind of city of 160,000 old geezers living in white or cream-coloured bungalows or similar design in a sprawling area of lawns, flower beds, golf courses and an occasional shopping centre. This is the place to meet scruffy old guys who may be millionaires, plumbers or past professors. Who knows? But who now look as if they've just emerged from the woodshed or fallen off a tractor. Many of whom find it easier not to smile. Are they from the Midwest or Pennsylvania? Not sure. Does their confused appearance resonate with losing track of day, date and time, or whether they put their underpants on that morning? One wonders. Or does that far-off look reflect their bewilderment, i.e., is their life still relevant? Do they still have substance and meaning? Or finally, was it all insignificant in the morass of human endeavour? Now they can afford to be happy and skip shaving, talk about their doctor and prostate, as many of them stagger around looking pregnant on shot knees or hips while being obliterated by the incessant chatter of wives who are knitting, moulding clay, moulding them, playing mahjong and thinking about losing weight and wondering how best to brag about their obnoxious grandchildren. They are women who sport and fashionable attire similar to what my grandmother and Auntie Phyllis wore when walking to the corner shop for potatoes. Are they all from Kansas? Who knows? Possible routine of a geezer. Rise and shine, golf cart primed, golf clubs aboard, belly up to the steering wheel, broom, broom, tee off at 9, boom, boom, then off to lunch at Denny's, today's special, meatloaf, gravy and mash. Broom, broom, onto the investment club, hoping to discover the next Google. Broom, broom, home for a quick nap. Broom, broom, join the crowd, it's happy hour and shrimp in the basket. Broom, broom, return home, watch Fox News, change into pajamas, ready for bed. Maybe tomorrow I'll play bocce and backgammon, he says to his wife, who is already asleep. I see some Trump t-shirts and sometimes over here in the gym or in places like Panera's Trumpian talk. Serious, hard-eyed or grizzled-looking faces who frequent evangelical rallies. The sort of people who enjoyed a good witch burning or public lynching a few years ago. Is it possible? Are they all as dumb or ignorant as they sound, or am I the problem? I sometimes infuriate my liberal friends by pointing out things that Trump could claim credit for. I do this just to see whether they can defend their hatred without slopping off into emotional outbursts. I'm being ridiculous, I know. After all, politics is emotional, and I crave for Trump to be put in jail. I want to be part of history. I miss some big moments. Slavery, Indian genocide, the Civil War, lynching, the slaughter in World War I, but lived through World War II, Hiroshima, segregation, and Elvis Presley. Vietnam, Watergate, Man on the Moon, computerization, and the empowerment of women. But now I want to see a US president put in jail. In fact, I think we should do that in order to show the world that the Lord is above all, even the pseudo-monarchy. By the way, was Prince Philip arrested for dangerous driving? Did the police breathalyze him or ask him to spell dad backwards? When I think of a village, my mind automatically conjures up visions of leaning, happy, smiling houses all in a row, or sunbathing behind a stone-walled garden, the odd picket fence, corner shops, perhaps a cobbled street and paved sidewalks. Flower baskets and geraniums in window boxes outside a wool shop, or a pig's head with an apple in its mouth, staring out of the butcher's window, church bells on a Sunday morning, a graveyard that beckons you over saying, "It won't be long now," and a pub with a buxom barmaid near a glinting river, its lurching sign bearing a coat of arms hanging over the door of the King's Head Inn. A place where the occasional fat policeman with a ruddy face may give you a parking ticket, and a post office that always seems to be closed for lunch. Not so, I've discovered. This is modern America, a man-made city of bungalows planned and designed by those who laid out Disney. It takes you by the hand and says, "Hang out here, pull up a chair. Your only worry is what you'll eat and do for enjoyment each day, and whether CVS pharmacy is open today." You try to make new friends to replace old friends, because they have disappeared into the mist, and soon those new friends will be taking a walk before you have the chance of really getting to know them and share your real self. The one that grew from a boy to a man, the one who never knew what to do, but did it anyway. You'll stumble onwards, take your pills in the morning, pass gas in the gymnasium, order the 65+ special in Bob Evans' diner, and make sure you're off the street in front of the TV by 8:30 p.m. This is the moment and place in life where you are vaguely remembered by your grandchildren from 1,000 miles away, and where your children, thank God there's a retirement care centre that will gently take you on the journey from standing upright to deathbed in 3 easy steps. A place of convenience where the kids can express your wishes from a plane journey away. That's right, Doc. It sounds like you're right. I'll fax the paperwork over, Doc. Pull the plug. Keep him on ice. We'll get there as soon as we can. In the villages there are very few sidewalks, no parks or places with gentle people sitting on blankets, eating sandwiches from big picnic baskets, wearing straw hats, throwing sticks for a happy dog. There are no men with trouser legs rolled up to the knees, wading along the edge of a lake, someone jokingly shouting, "Watch out for alligators." No statues or waterfalls or kids floating toy boats, flying model airplanes and kites. No one walking down streets being happily surprised to be bumping into friends, beaming smiles, slap on the back, exchanging words, "See you later, see you around, let's go for coffee, it's just along here." Chance encounters, random socializing is not part of the program. Upon arriving at the villages, after a 1,250-mile drive, I hate driving. My first thought was the old TV series, The Prisoner. Here we were in our own bubble, feeling cut off from the real world. Perhaps we've been incarcerated. Who knows? It's all a bit vague. Perhaps we've seemingly enjoying themselves with a scowl or mouth pulled down at the corners, doing nothing of consequence. Everyone getting in their last game of golf or mahjong. There is no history here, no roots. It's just one big winter camp for old codgers, the likes of me. Yes, we are down in Florida, where gasoline, booze and cigarettes are cheap, and guns are cheap, and life is cheap. A panoply of modern pilgrims escaping being persecuted by the young and the snow. Some great power scooped up 100,000 old fogies and plopped them down in the middle of Florida. A swamp land if ever I saw one. I need mountains, like living and sea breeze. However, if we don't get sick, we'll have achieved the purpose. But at the same time, come face to face with irrelevance. It's an interesting situation that raises the complexity, individual concerns which undoubtedly need to be ignored. Geez, it's hot. I need to buy a hat. Letter number 2, if that wasn't enough for you. Dear Sylvia, years ago, kids used to hear stories about an elephant's graveyard in Africa that was never found. A secret place where old elephants wandered off to die. At the bottom end of America, there is a vast waiting room where you can find old, thick-skinned, wrinkled, elephant-like people with a "where the hell am I?" look and "get out of my way" snarl. People who never pass up the opportunity to visit the toilet for a pee or a bar during happy hour. There are some who are more engaged playing golf and others who think they are still in their 30s bashing a tennis ball until they turn an ankle. However, they are all in a not-so-secret graveyard waiting for supper and in their pajamas by 8 o'clock. Quite often, you see caps and t-shirts proclaiming, "I'm a Vietnam vet," etc. Commemorating the war of betrayal, murder and lies, the war America lost and lost its innocence. Why the proud graphic? As a Welshman, I can't figure it out. It must have something to do with nationalism, a deep-rooted sentiment in America. It is the only country in the world that I'm aware of where standing for the national anthem and a hand over the heart is a common occurrence at almost every public event, but not in public toilets, and where flags all year round are hung on trucks and displayed in gardens. Patriotism bleeds into nationalism, bleeds into fascism, and young men get their legs blown off, or worse, in some God-forsaken place. I had my hair cut the other day. The hairdresser, who had splayed flat feet, has a son and 7 dogs. When finishing up, she said, I looked handsome, was a good catch, and men are a rare commodity in the villages. I never thought of myself as a commodity. And so this engendered visions of short-sighted, grey-haired Ohio women with wide hips and bulbous breasts stalking me in the library. I've stayed close to Magdalene ever since. I was told by another woman that the men down here wear their shirt collar up to signify that they are available. Have you ever heard such crap? I would think it's more than the shirt collar that needs to be raised. When growing up, I used to hear stories about heaven. A perpetual playground where everyone is happy, where there are brightly coloured birds singing angels, where it never rains and everything is beautiful. To get there, all you had to do was always be good, obey your betters, think nice thoughts, or, at the last moment, beg forgiveness for being a bastard, and all your sins would be expunged. Oh yes, and believe in miracles. Something like that. This worked nicely for the rich, and still does for many. But down here, you can have these heavenly trappings without having to kneel for forgiveness. Mind you, if that were to happen, most people here, including myself, would have great difficulty in getting up off their knees. I often wonder what it must be like for nurses and surgeons when trying to handle a huge lump of lard, 300 pounds or more, hoisting the body onto a bed, pushing their hands through mounds of flesh to get to an organ or an intestine. Do these people sleep two to a bed? How does sex work for them? So many questions I have, but back to heaven. The village is a practice ground, a preview of what to expect. Golf all day, martinis at night. We hear ambulances every day. Another one down, off to La La Land. Of course, this is a white enclave, a white heaven. Black or Hispanic people are a rare sight, except when lawns are being cut or hedges trimmed. I guess they have to find another route to heaven. Florida is a stand-your-ground state, which basically allows you to plug someone or anyone, for that matter, you don't like. So I imagine minorities play it safe and stay away. Self-regulated segregation, perhaps. We attended a few shows at the recreation centres. The first one was a welcome event where everyone occupied a 6-to-a-table setup. People brought their own drinks and light food. Magdalene doesn't miss an opportunity to socialise with a bottle of Cabernet. One couple were younger than us. They had just arrived from Indiana. They were of the nice variety, kind, and of course had little of interest to say. I assumed they were Methodists. The tough-looking lady opposite had been a physical education teacher. She complained about her husband and looked ready for an arm wrestle. Her husband had bulging eyes, fat cheeks, and a bristled double chin. He didn't say a word, just pushed food into his mouth. There was entertainment. It was an 82-year-old magician, and he had a partner who told jokes. She was 91. They were old jokes, and the tricks were the usual. Handkerchiefs out of his nose, something out of a hat, etc. Magdalene was selected to pick a ticket from out of a basket, and I won the raffle. 35 bucks, not bad. Then the 91-year-old partner banged down on the keys of a piano. She burst into song, Tulips from Amsterdam. Magdalene and I looked at each other and briefly considered driving all the way back to Massachusetts. A week later, there was another show, this time with performers who lived in the villages. Two couples who may have come from Wyoming or Oklahoma. The men dressed up with black Stetsons, white shirt, black string bow tie, black waistcoat and trousers, white shoes with spurs, for Christ's sake. The women wore similar outfits, black skirts, white blouse, black fell waistcoats and white boots. Up onto the stage they jumped and delighted everyone, except perhaps Magdalene and I, with line dancing routines. 2 steps to the front, 1 to the side, 2 to the back, 1 to the side, turn, clap, and do it again. They were called the cloggers. Next up was a 5'6", silver-haired, 75-plus-year-old who thought he was Elvis Presley. He kept flinging out one arm, pointing his finger to the ceiling, and then to the stage floor, while gyrating his hips, wiggling his bum, and swinging the microphone around. The compere, she had a loud voice and laugh that cackled. She loved everyone, and I loved her, as she forgot names, the punchlines to her little jokes, and the words of a love poem she had written for Phil. Phil, her wobbly husband. Phil, whom she had married 10 years ago, was in the region of 80 years old. He was in charge of microphones that worked intermittently and the performers accompanying music CDs. Unfortunately, he seemed to have difficulty finding the right discs. This resulted in performers left on stage standing around crestfallen, then shouting at him, "It's got my name on it!" "Not that one!" "What's my name?" "It's Peter!" "For God's sake, Pete! Hell's bells, the one with the yellow label!" "Does this might work?" Nothing. Someone leaned in and said, "It's always like this." Only one performer seemed to have dressed for the occasion. She had a large white bow in her hair, long green fingernails, a short frilly silk dress, and sparkling shoes with 6-inch heels. She was the worst singer I've ever heard in my life. The best was yet to come. A woman took the stage with a bottle green leotard and something like a hula skirt made of long strands of rags. She sang some Motown song. For a second song, she turned her back to the audience and, to my surprise, pulled her skirt up and on top of her head. She now looked like a cross between Raggedy Ann and Shaka Khan, while singing Baby Love, as the skirt kept slipping down her forehead over her eyes. It was wonderful. Where's a performing sea lion when you need one? More acts followed, and Magdalene won the raffle. An 82-year-old guy with lizard eyes buttonholed me at a poetry group meeting, based upon some corny poem I had written about God and creation. He claimed that I was an intellectual like him. It was an embarrassing moment. A kid from the streets of a Welsh industrial town is definitely not an intellectual. Mind you, later on, I Googled him and learned that he had been a distinguished lawyer, wrote a book, The True Story of the Holocaust hero Raoul Wallenberg. He received the United Nations Peace Award for humanitarian service and the National Council of Christian and Jews Annual Award for helping to write the United States Civil Rights Act of 1964. Impressive, huh? But more recently, I learned, he had been arrested a couple of times for assault. He had slapped his 78-year-old fellow tennis player across the face twice and whacked him with a tennis racket, and then finished it off by throwing a banana at the man. He also got involved in other aggressive confrontations and had his lawyer's license rescinded. A judge had requested that he be psychologically evaluated. Upon learning this, I felt much relief. Obviously, he was confused, nuts, or deranged. Driving home from the villages, headed north, mostly on Highway 95, passing through Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia, we could not help but notice the lousy conditions of those living near the road. Ramshackle houses, junk-cluttered yards, clapboard churches, Jesus signs, and every stop along the way a dump, including the so-called restaurants. Hundreds and hundreds of miles of depression, an example of two Americas, me in my car fleeing north, and those in their poverty left on the roadside. America is in the clutches of the unholy trinity: multinational corporations, military, and criminality. Financed by the rich and powerful, fueled by inequality, they use old slogans and are supported by the likes of old fogies. Those who have escaped the grip of hopelessness, religiously watching Fox News, support the NRA, wish Joe McCarthy was back, and flex flabby skin at the gym. Trump and GOP acolytes have shown that Obama did us no favours. A nice-looking, educated, well-spoken guy, but a wuss, always looking to compromise. In America, you have to be prepared to have a scrap, kick ass, get dirty. It's a rough place. We pulled into our road just off Cape Cod and gunned the car through 3 inches of snow in the driveway. So there we were. After travelling the world, fighting the odds, I had found the apogee, the American Nirvana, the last watering hole, the place of ultimate hibernation, with pelicans and storks, line dancing, drum circles and golf courses. Now what? I am suspicious of mirages, bolt holes, and banal idleness. I want to go back to Wales, way, way back. Thank you very much.